Hi, lovely people. Are you struggling with your emotional health? We're in the midst of a pandemic currently. I'm recording this during our second national lockdown in the UK. And maybe you're struggling with your emotional health. You're asking the questions, what can I do to help myself get better? Are there things that I can do alongside my medication? Are there things we can do instead of medication? And I want to explore some of these questions with you over the next few weeks, and I'm going to do a few videos on this, looking at the things that we can be doing in how we're living and the decisions we're making on a day-to-day basis to help you recover your emotional and mental health. I'm Dr. Sally. I'm founder of Dr. Sally Bell. I've been a medical doctor for 21 years. And I use a 5 foundation approach to health that focuses on you instead of treating a disease, looks at getting to the root of why you're unwell instead of just suppressing symptoms, and considers the whole of you instead of a part of you. And these 5 foundations that underpin health include sleep, movement, rest, connection, and nutrition. And the reason that these foundations are so important is that they're tapping into our body's ability to heal and repair. We know that there is a genetic influence in all disease, but actually when you look at the research, only 10% is probably due to the genetics, due to the things that we have inherited from our parents, and actually 90% are due to the things that we do every day: how we sleep, how we move, how we relate to one another, how we eat, and how we connect with one another. So at the beginning of this short series, I wanted to share a little bit with you about my own story, because I'm talking to you not just from a medical standpoint, not just from looking at research. I'm talking to you as one that has suffered and still struggles to an extent with my own emotional health. I want to be real about what I'm talking about in these weeks comes from me experiencing and using them and wrestling with some of the issues. So I always struggled with my emotional health right from a little girl. I think I was very introverted, and I was born into a very extroverted family. And I was always the moody one. I was always the one that would storm off. But I think on reflection, I just felt my world, and I didn't know how to handle my emotions. I didn't have a language to express them and didn't have opportunity to express them. So always remember just really struggling from very young with my emotions, and particularly just remembering that I just struggled with anger, struggled with those more darker emotions, and I just didn't know how to express them or what to do with them. I did my medical training here in Nottingham, and after that we did a pre-registration year after we'd done our 5 years training, and that was really intense. It was before the days of the EU working directive, and we were doing anything from 120 hours a week. And at the end of that year, not surprisingly, I had a complete breakdown. There was no balance, and hadn't been for a whole year in my life. No rhythms of sleep, but again, back then I had no idea about the things that I know now. We back in the 90s didn't understand, the science around lifestyle and sleep and food and connection and movement and what that does for our mental health. And so I went to the doctors, and I had 6 months on fluoxetine. And as a way just to help take the edge of what was going on in me, I actually ended up taking 6 months off work just to recover and recover my emotional resilience. And then, I kind of went through my GP training. I worked overseas in Sudan and Uganda, very intense situations and scenarios in life, and struggled a bit then, but probably just held it together until I had my first baby when I was 30. And my darling Rosie was born in Uganda by emergency cesarean section. She was premature. It was extremely difficult circumstances under which she was born, and very traumatic for me. And that was my first experience of postnatal depression, which I then had again with my second child, Tamar. This time I'd come home to have her. We were living out in Uganda at the time, and had a better birth experience. But in that first year after she was born, we moved country, we moved house, we moved culture. My husband worked away from home. I was setting up home with two children under the age of 2, and had another really quite severe bout of postnatal depression. And in that time, I went on to have a third child. You'd wonder why. My Annie, so I've got 3. And actually that third time, having recognised now what had happened with my previous births, we set things up very differently, and it was a very different experience, and a real joy. And I didn't have postnatal depression, and it wasn't until then did I realise to the degree that I had suffered in those first after those first 2 births. And so my experience of postnatal depression was, I felt like terrible brain fog. I would describe like feeling like I was moving through treacle all the time. Everything was such an effort to think, effort to do. I had some terrible times of really dark thinking, and I convinced myself on a number of occasions that my children would be better off without me. I never acted on those things, but I entertained those thoughts on a number of occasions, and really convinced myself that they were worthy of a better mother and would be better off without me. And we had the normal things of broken sleep because I had babies, and probably felt pain more. Like I just felt like my body ached all the time, my joints ached all the time, and I honestly didn't. When I was in it, I just thought this was motherhood, and this was normal, and I didn't have the insight to see that I was ill at the time. And so again, I wish I had known what I knew now, and I wish I had had a doctor with the experience that I have to help guide me back to health, and to have the insight. So yeah, and it took me years to recover, if I'm really honest. It was slow, and I had to make some real adjustments in my life. I had to really ask people to help me, which I found difficult back then. And I didn't go on medication at that time. I didn't go to my doctors. I don't know why I didn't do that. But there was a gradual recovery, and the recovery in itself is a long story, and it wasn't just one thing. It never is with all chronic illness, with all mental health. There's no just one solution. It's not just about a medication. Medication has its place. Like, I'm not anti, but it isn't the solution. And neither is medication 6 weeks of cognitive behavioural therapy. Like, there are a whole host of things that need to come together and need to be put into our lives in order to make a full recovery. And it's drawing from that experience in my own life, and then thinking about drawing from my experience in how I've changed how I practice medicine. And I mentioned those 5 foundations that I use now to help people recover their mental health. And it's from this that I want to just take you through some things that you can be doing to help build your emotional resilience, to help keep you stable mentally. And I think I won't say any more now. That's just a little bit about me and a bit about my story of where I'm coming from when I'm talking about mental health. But I think I would end just with a couple of things if you're watching and if you're struggling. The one thing is, you are not alone. And there are so many people that have gone before you and stand with you and can understand the darkness you're in, and so we can self-isolate and think we're the weird ones and think that nobody will understand, and our shame keeps us closed up and keeps us from admitting we have a problem and reaching out for help. And so my first thing I just want to say is you are not alone. You're not alone. And I think the second thing is the bravest thing that you will ever do is ask for help. And there is help out there, and nobody can do this for you. Like, if you're thinking that the medicine's going to make you better, or it's somebody else's responsibility to get you better, you won't get there. You ask for help, but you have to own your problem and own searching for the solution. But there is help out there, and there are tools and things that you can be doing to help on that path to recovery. And finally, I would say that it takes time, and even after a few good days, you're going to still have some bad days. And actually, bad days are a normal part of life, but we shouldn't be having bad days every day. And we're not to be afraid of those bad days. There is as we do some of the things we're going to talk about, it's will put you on a trajectory to recovery, but it does take time, and you have to hang in there and self-coach. So those are my thoughts today, and I look forward to kind of just sharing with you some of the other things that we can do around sleep, around movement, around nutrition, around how we connect with ourselves, with others, with that sense of purpose, and how we rest well and eradicate stress from our life. Please do put your comments, questions, thoughts, and I'll see you next time. Bye.